Okay, we're officially recording. So good morning. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this morning. I know it's a Saturday morning and it's hard for all of us to get up and get going, but we found that this time period works for a lot of people. We're going to do the best that we can to talk about pertinent information in a reasonable amount of time, give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. But these topics that we're talking about today tend to be the ones that we get the most questions about in the career area. And that's, what goes into my resume? What's a cover letter anyway? How do I look for a job or an internship? And why do I need a LinkedIn profile? And we found that we've tried creating videos in the past, and they're a good resource to go back to, but there's so much information. It's sort of a lot to take in. So we're going to talk to you this morning about the things that we would like you to know. We're going to end with a Q&A, but if there are any pertinent questions that you have while we're going through, don't hesitate to put those questions in the chat room, and we'll try to catch up with them and stay on topic with them as we move through. Anything else, Lynn, before I jump in?
No, I think that just for anyone who just joined, remember, we're going to be taking it. It takes attendance. Zoom does. We'll be sharing that with the instructors. Date and time stamps in and out. And then we just share that so you can get credit for being here. So good morning and thanks for being here. And Kathleen, do you want me to share my screen and bring up the resume on the College of Business website?
Sure. And so while Lynn is bringing this up, a lot of people want resources. And so the best resource that we have is on the College of Business webpage. It's under the Career Services section.
Can you share the screen because it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing? Gotta love the technology when it works. It's great when it doesn't.
So Lynn, you're now officially the co-host, okay?
All right, I'm gonna share the screen. Perfect. Share. All right, so while you're talking, Kathleen, if you can kind of go through where I am maybe, and then.
Okay, so what you've seen Lynn pull up is the College of Business webpage. You can see the web address right up at the top. And then the section that you want to be looking at is called Student Support. And Lynn, if you can scroll down a little bit. So Student Support. And then when you scroll down more, you'll see Career Services. So that's the section where all our sample documents and all our good tools are. So be sure to take a look in here. For those of you who have started this week's homework assignment, this Careers by Major is where you're going to go to find out to link to what can I do with this major. And now we're just going to slide over to resumes. So one of the things that I did during our time away in COVID is I created a sample resume for each of the majors within the college. And there are unique things that go along with each resume or each major. What I'd recommend is take a look at all of them because there are different positions that we've used in the different resumes. And you can pick up some ideas from all of them. So we're going to focus on accounting and finance this morning simply because the first two people that logged on were accounting and finance majors. And so I'll talk through the important sections of the resume. Again, if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat room or you can save them until the end. But I'll try to cover the main elements that go into a resume. the biggest mistakes that I see on people's resumes, and the things that I really want you to remember. So Lynn, if you want to click on one of them, it doesn't matter which one to start. So, there's been a lot of talk in the business world that resumes are going away and you can just post things on LinkedIn and that's how people are going to find you. But in all honesty, I find that most of the employers that work with us in the College of Business, the first thing that they often say is, well, shoot me a copy of your resume. So the important thing for all of us is A, to have a resume, B, to make sure that our resume is current and it's ready to go whenever somebody would ask for one. And that the resume is really, it's really presenting you and it's really marketing you so that you stand out and the best that you have to offer is on that resume. So as you think of your resume, there are 2 words that I want you to remember throughout this whole thing. The first thing is that your resume should be targeted. In other words, most of us feel that your resume is like this standard document. Every time you send your resume out, you should be looking at it and saying, are there things that I should move around so that you're matching the keywords and the qualifications that are appearing in the job description? And as we get into the work for week 3, you're going to watch this really cool video on how to beat the bot. And basically what's happening with all of our resumes when they go into any kind of a position that we're applying for is that there's artificial intelligence that's set up on the human resources side of that company. And that bot, that artificial intelligence, is actually screening your resume to make sure that the keywords that are in the job description appear in your document. So your challenge is each time you send something out, you want to be sure that those keywords appear in your resume and your cover letter. And that's what makes it targeted. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that it needs to be strategic. And what I mean by that is find a way to make the most important things that you have to offer appear as close to the top of the resume as possible. Because once the line managers and the hiring reps get their resumes in front of you, I'm going to use my little cursor and think of it as a finger. So normally what they do is they scan down the left-hand side of the document looking for keywords. So you want to be sure that the important information that you have, first of all, appears in this upper left-hand quadrant of the resume. And secondly, that all the important words that you have to offer are appearing on the left-hand side of the resume. All right. So now I'm going to go through the different sections. And what you'll see as we look at Amelia Smith's resume is, first of all, that it's typewritten. I mean, Amelia typed this herself. She created it herself. She didn't use a template. And we were very mindful of doing this because I think that if you create your own resume, as opposed to using a template, you've got more of an opportunity to, first of all, be creative and to put the important things where they should appear. So for almost all of you, the most important thing that you have to offer is the fact that you're working on a degree. So after your name and a phone number and an email address, then you'll see that the next thing is the education section. And I will say that the education section is also the area where Lynn and I see the most inconsistencies and mistakes in terms of a resume. So most people have their degree wrong. So when you list your education, you begin with the university granting the degree. University of Rhode Island, Kingston, Rhode Island. The next line is the degree that you are earning. And unless we have any TMD or textile marketing students in with us, all of you are earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And on that same line, you want to include your graduation date. The third line is where you put your major. And, Amelia's an accounting major. That's what you want to stand out. Bold the information that's important and that you want somebody else to see. So here you can see that she's an accounting major and she has a minor in Italian. Both areas are things that she wanted somebody to see, so she bolded both of them. The next line down in your education would be your GPA, and you include it on your resume if it's a 3.0 or better. If it's less than a 3.0, you would leave it off. Or if you sit down with an academic advisor, they can help you figure out what your GPA is in your major. And if that's a 3.0 or better, then you would put GPA in major with whatever, whatever that GPA is. If you've made the dean's list, that's an honor that relates to education. It would appear under education. So you would put dean's list with the number of semesters that you earned it. If you've received any academic awards, honors, or scholarships to attend the university, you want to include those there as well. If you belong to any of the honor societies, so Beta Gamma Sigma, that would be something that would appear up under education. If you've done a study abroad, or hopefully you'll have the opportunity to study abroad again in the future. If you've had that opportunity, you would list that there, stating the institution that you studied at, the country that it was located in, and the semester that you did it. Now, for our accounting majors, one of the key things that employers want to see is how you intend on getting your 150 credit hour plan. And that's something that talks about, are you eligible to sit for the CPA exam? There are two ways that you can attain your 150 credit hour plan. Either you can do a master's degree in some area of business, or you can take additional credits while you're still an undergraduate. And so whatever option that is, you want to clearly state that at the top of your resume, because especially for the bigger firms, they use that graduation date and how you're getting your 150 credits to determine when they offer you an internship. And so for that reason, we want to put that as close to the top of the page as possible. I'm trying to think of some of the other majors. So in finance, if you were sitting for your CFA, that would be something that you would want to include, and you've got a date that you're taking the level 1 exam. If I know some of you are working in the insurance field and they're like Series 7 exams. So if there's anything like that that directly pertains to your education, you would want to include that up in that section. You'll note that on Amelia's resume, there's no high school. So that's the second mistake that we see a lot. A lot of people put their high school on there. High school doesn't belong on a college resume because you couldn't get into college if you hadn't done high school or successfully completed a GED. So it's assumed, and you need to have a nice, solid one-page resume. So you want to be sure that you're using that one page to convey all the most recent and relevant information you have toward a job. Did I forget anything, Lynn?
No, I think you covered it. I think one thing that I see when you talked about this area right here, May 2019, I think it's important for the students to know that that's when the employer says, they're reading it as, when are you going to be done? How do you fit into my funnel of internship or full-time job? So you wouldn't list it like a job of when you started and when you ended. I see that a lot. If we scroll down to the resume, see here, they're still working at this job. So that's one thing that I see in the education section that I usually correct a lot.
So the next section down can vary. I'm going to use Amelia's resume to slide through, and then we're going to just pull up finance when we finish with that to just show some different variables. But the next most important thing that Amelia has to offer is that she already has related experience. Now, related experience can either come through an internship or it can be a summer job. You know, some people come in and they go, oh my God, I don't have an internship. It's not the end of the world. The important thing is that an employer wants to know that you've done work that relates to the position that they have. So sometimes that is an internship and sometimes it's a summer job. But as you can see, when you, under the related experience section, you list the company that you worked for, where it was located. The next line would be your title and your dates of employment. And then as you look under the section, you can see Amelia used a bullet, a verb, and a phrase to convey the related experiences that she's had. So what I want you to think about when you start talking about what did you do, think about what you do that specifically relates to the position that you're applying for. So it's kind of a forward-thinking kind of thing that you're doing when you go to create this section. So she wanted somebody to know right up front that she had Excel. Remember, we talked about putting the important words over on the left-hand column. So she utilized Excel to input client data. She worked with a team. She created a manual. She was named the intern of the week. So when you write each section, think about what did I do? What did I learn about the industry or the particular type of company that I was working in? And what did I accomplish? Is there anything I can quantify? Is there any number I can show? Is there any document that I can produce? Was I given any kind of an accolade for doing that work? And those are the things that you're going to list under each position. So she has had 3 experiences that relate. She was an accounting intern twice, once with one of the big 4 and once with another company. And then she also did a case competition. And I put this in purposely because there are different ways in different majors that you can get involved with different case competitions. PwC is one. NABA has many case competitions. If you are a finance major and you are in the RAM Fund class, that's a presentation that usually takes place. I know marketing has a ton of cases that they work on that our students have been recognized for. I know supply chain has done cases and competitions. And I know with the innovation and entrepreneurship students, there are often, I think they call them pitches. So you go in and you pitch your product. But if there's a way that you've been out interacting with companies and with industries, you want to get that information up in that top quarter of the resume so that you're catching somebody's attention. And that's what Amelia has done here. If you haven't done it yet, your college career isn't over. You still have an opportunity to get involved now. So take a look at all those flyers that go up around the college. Take a look at those new TV screens that we have that are showing all the events and the clubs and organizations, and get involved with something that means something to you. And then typically that would be something that would fall in that section. Now, granted, everything is not a related experience section. So as we slide down the page, you'll see that she also has your typical college jobs. She was a waitress. But instead of talking about I delivered food and I took orders, she took a look at what she did and she matched it to the kind of job that she's looking for. So she talked about managing financial records. She talked about the responsibility of being selected to open and close the facility. She talked about the customer service skills that she developed and the problem-solving skills that she developed. And because she needed to keep her resume on one page, but She thought, well, maybe I want to talk about my lifeguard position because you never know the kinds of questions that are going to be asked in an interview. She included the fact that she was a lifeguard, but she didn't put any bullets with it. But she just thought at some point she might want to talk about it. And then she also put her activities in community service. So you'll see that she has Beta Alpha Psi and that she was a member. Usually what an employer is looking at when they look at a resume is they want to see what degree you're earning. They want to know how well you've done with that degree. They want to know if you can make connections to the job that they're hiring you for. And if possible, they want to know if you've been involved. So what do you do after school? Are you involved with a club or organization? If you have been, do you have a leadership position within it? Now, some people say, rightfully so, I am working 3 or 4 jobs. I don't have time to be involved with a club or an organization. Well, you know what? That's something that you can note on your resume. So up under the education section, while we don't have it listed here, you could put something like earned 50% of tuition through part-time or full-time employment. Because again, that shows that you possess excellent time management skills and that you're very responsible, because not only are you going to school, you're also earning your tuition money. And so that's something that you could put there. I know a lot of you, I've seen a lot of students already this semester who have said, I didn't know I could do this, but I finished my 4-year degree in 3 years. That's something that you want to note there, because not everybody is doing that. It shows, again, that you've got excellent time management skills. And so I would put that under the education section. Some people do not have related experience yet. And so one of the sections that you could create, you can either put it under education or you could have it in its own section. You could have something that's called related coursework and pick 3 or 4 of your upper level courses that relate to the kind of job that you're applying to, and list the class by name, not by number. And what that shows an employer is it shows the level of theory that you've learned in your discipline that you're bringing to the job with you. Lynn, I can't see. Is there anything in the chat room yet?
I can't see in the chat room because.
Okay, there's nothing there yet. But did I miss anything, Lynn, before we flip over to finance?
Nope. All right. Yeah, no, there's nothing in the chat. Let me see if I can. Can you see that I'm changing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sometimes what happens is you have to back out and stop sharing and then share again. Can you see that I brought up a finance resume?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, so here we have Alyssa's resume. You'll see that the education is laid out exactly the same. She has a major and she has a minor, and she has scholarships and she has study abroad. Now, what's different on Alyssa's resume, and this is why I brought it up, is the fact that in finance, there are professional certifications that many people have. So if you are a finance major and you've taken Professor Ice's class, I think it's 321, in that class, you earn a Bloomberg Market Concepts certification. That certification is just built into the class. I strongly recommend that if you can, all of you take one of the Microsoft Office Specialist classes. And when you successfully pass that, that's something that you could put on your resume. And if you are in the RAM fund, there is a special InvestNet program that you can participate in. And basically, it teaches you the terminology that you're going to need if you're going into financial advising or financial planning. And if you're interested in it, talk to me about it. And we can see if there's a way that we can get you into a program like that. if that's something that can enhance what you put on your resume. So for Alyssa, she is a member of the RAM Fund, so that's something that she wanted to include. She had an internship. She worked at Tony's Pizza again, and she had roughly the same skills. She has leadership experience down here under her activities and community service, and she has special skills in language. And depending on how much you want to, how much you want to use that language, you might put it at the bottom under special skills, or you could potentially move it up to the top. Trying to get my cursor to move up. So instead of professional certifications, you could have language skills. And under the language skills, you could put, I know we were talking to somebody that was a double major. So in the language programs at certain levels, they certify you at a different level. So you could put the language that you know and your certification there. For the marketing majors that are here under the professional certifications, probably instead of certifications, you could put computer and social media competency. And that way, if you're really competent in Facebook or in Instagram or any of the other social medias, Twitter, if you use them in a job, you can put that up here.
I'm going to bring up the marketing one. Just
okay.
So I got to move this over. Here's marketing.
We didn't put it in that one.
Okay.
But the good thing about the marketing resume is here's the American Marketing Association case competition. So you can see that this person, Amelia, again, was in a case competition, and these are the things she did and she learned. If you're in supply chain, the fact that you're working on your Six Sigma is something that would go up to the top. So here this person has their yellow and green belt, their Microsoft Excel, and the CTL is a certificate of transportation and logistics. And you can apply for that upon graduation. So I hope that we've given you sort of like the only word that I can think of is a smattering. I guess my brain's thinking of Winnie the Pooh this morning, but you can see a variety of different ways that you can pull your resume together. The other thing that I'm thinking of is if you've gone to other schools. So if you've gone to other schools before you came to URI, the only time you would list that other school is if you actually earned a degree there. So I know that a number of you transferred in from a community college. So whatever that community college is, if you transferred in with a degree, then you would include it. And so then your resume is always created in a fashion so that it's the most recent thing that you've done that appears first. And then you go back to what you did before. So you're currently at URI, that's what would appear first. Then you leave a double space and then you go back to your community college experience. You list the college, where it was located, the degree that you earned, your date of graduation, your major, and if you graduated with honors. If you attended another school, but you did not earn a degree there, then your credits are part of your URI degree. And so you don't need to draw attention to it.
Good. I'm going to jump
Anything
in.
else? Anything else, Lynn, that you can think of?
No, I think it's just important to take time to look at each of the sample resumes because everyone has a little bit of a different thing in the related experience or work experience or leadership experience that might speak to you if you're a accounting major. So take time to just kind of look at all of them. That's all I have. I'm going to bring up the cover letter since we have to do that next.
And while you're talking, Lynn, the other mistake that I often see is in terms of tense. So if you have completed a position that you want a closing date on the job, And you want to be sure that your verbs are listed in the past tense. And the great thing about you being able to create your own resume is that you can also be creative in terms of the headings that you use. So maybe you have tons of leadership experience. So you could go from the related experience to leadership experience. And if you've had an RA job, or if you were an orientation assistant, or if you were a lead camp counselor, or if you were a shift supervisor, you could put those things, you could clump all those positions under the leadership position. And if you think about leadership, leadership is management. So it's very related to business, and an employer would want to know that. And maybe you've got experiences that are in two different areas. I know we were talking to somebody who was a marketing major and a German major. So you could have a section that's called marketing experience and language experience. So just know that you can create your own headings and move the material in there. And that's another example of being strategic. Now, Lynn just pulled up the cover letter. I like to think of the resume as sort of an outline of the experience that you've had. Your cover letter is more an example of your written communication skills, which employers want to know about. And it also shows that you can, again, find the targeted words and tell a short targeted story about yourself for the position that you're applying to. So unless it is otherwise stated, and I know that there are a couple of companies that we've worked with where point blank, they say, do not include a cover letter. The assumption is that you will create a cover letter and that you will send that cover letter along with your resume when you're applying for a position. Now, what Amelia did is she copied the header that was at the top of her resume. She put it on a blank Word document, and it serves as the header for her cover letter. So it almost looks like she has her own stationery. So again, she has her name. On this, she put her address, her phone number, and her email address. And let me say that when you put your email address on your resume, make sure it's the one that you look at. Some students say to me, should I use my URI address or my Gmail address? It doesn't matter. Just make sure that whatever you put up here is the one that you look at. I know I've sent feedback to students at times to whatever's on top of their resume, and they'll say, I never got it. And I'll say, well, I sent it to, and they said, well, I never look at that. And then I'll say, well, why is it on your resume? Because that's what I went by. So don't fall into that mistake. Just make sure it's all consistent. You want to have the date at the top of your cover letter. And even though you're going to be sending this via email, you want to be sure that you, when at all possible, you find the name of the hiring manager and that person's title, and you set it up in the cover letter, even though you're not going to be mailing it to that person. So it's the hiring manager's name, his or her title, the company or organization they work for, the street address, and the city, state, and zip code. You can find out a lot if you Google things. So even though it might not be in Handshake or Indeed, do some Google search and see if you can find it out. And if not, do the best you can with that section. All right. The important thing is that if you have it, then that makes the greeting easier, because then you know if it's Dear Mr. or Ms. and the person's last name. And then your typical cover letter is 3 paragraphs long. And there's a function for each paragraph. So your first paragraph, the function of the paragraph is to build a match. So you state the position that you're applying for, how you heard about or where you saw the position. And then if there's a way that you can make a connection. So did somebody from the company come in and talk in your class? Did you meet that person at career day? Did you find about it in Handshake? Did you study it in a class? Try to find a way that you can make a connection with the company, and that shows that you're interested and it captures somebody's attention. The middle paragraph is the hardest paragraph to write, and this is where that targeting comes in on your cover letter. Because in most job descriptions, there's a list of qualifications. And so as a tool, you'll see that I created this section right here that says them and me. Obviously, this doesn't go into the cover letter, but it gives you sort of like a worksheet as to how you can figure out how you're going to craft that second paragraph. So on one side of the column, I list the key qualifications. And then on the right-hand side, I think about all the experiences that I've had. I think about what's my degree? What's my coursework? Have I done something in a job? Did I do something in research? Did I learn about something through campus involvement or a club or an organization or volunteer work? And whatever those connections are, you put those connections on the sheet of paper and then you turn them into sentences. So the purpose of the second paragraph is to explain why you are the best qualified person or why you are qualified to be brought in for an interview. So when you think about your resume and your cover letter, the purpose of those two documents is to get yourself to the point where you're being invited for an interview so that you can then present yourself face to face. Once you land the interview, the mission or the purpose of your resume and cover letter has been, they did their job. They got you to where you want to be. And now it's your responsibility moving forward to do well in the interview. So that middle paragraph matches. The typical middle paragraph is probably 5 or 6 or 7 sentences long. And just to work with this a little bit, it's a hard thing to get used to because we're not used to writing that way. But I think the more you practice, the easier it will come. And of course, Lynn and I are around to help you through that and give you feedback and ideas on how you can create that second paragraph. And then the last paragraph is a closing, and it's an opportunity for you to thank them for the opportunity. So honestly, what you could do is you could take these 3 sentences that are here, just kind of take the quotes away and turn them into a paragraph, and that can be your third paragraph. So typically your third paragraph says, enclosed is a copy of my resume that further outlines my experience. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you soon. And then you leave 2 spaces, you type the word sincerely, and then you type your name. And the thing that I often see at the bottom of a cover letter is enclosures or references available upon request. You don't need to put that there because you're not going to get hired without a reference. So you can just leave those things off. But that's kind of an outline of the things that go on your cover letter. And I saw very briefly that there was a question in the chat room about how long does your URI email last? We check on that on the help desk. It used to last forever. Mm-hmm. I want to double check that now that they took away the @my.uri.edu and they went to the uri.edu. I just want to make sure that that's still accurate. And we will message that information to your instructors and they'll post it in your class so that you will know that.
I went online and it says you do, but it was referring to the my email. So before, for anyone, when we used to have the my.uri.edu, but I'm making a note.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm questioning that, so anyway, what you're applying to as a junior and as a senior, I think you'll be fine. My concern is moving forward, like maybe as you're graduating, you might want to swap out to a Gmail or an Outlook account. I know I sent a big mailing out to May graduates and a bunch of them were returned to me. And I'm not sure why. That's why I'm questioning how long they're viable.
Yeah. Or you might have to keep it active or something like that, or forward it somewhere. There might be something that
You might have to request it. So we'll find out and let you know.
Yeah. All right.
And then we're going to talk about thank you letters.
Yeah. And that's under, just to refresh everyone's memory, student support, career services, and then you'll find it under interviewing.
All right. So you did this killer resume. You wrote a perfect cover letter. You're called for an interview. You have a great interview. You need to write a thank you note. The thank you note can be a thank you email, and that's what we recommend. Further, I recommend that you're sending it before you go to bed the night of your interview. Things are just moving so quickly now with technology being what it is that you don't want to take the time and put it off and get the wording just right. You want to, when you get in your car or after you have a Zoom interview, you want to write down the things that you want to thank the person for. You want to get it written and you want to send it off. So for your email version, it would be Dear Mr. or Ms. and the person's last name. And then the thank you letter mimics the cover letter in the sense that it's 3 paragraphs long. So in the first paragraph, you thank the person or the group for the opportunity to interview. It's always good to restate the position that you interviewed for and the date that you interviewed. And then sit back and think, all right, I had this great interview. Why do you want to be hired by this company? What was the most important thing that stuck out to you? And whatever that connection is, you want to put that connection up in the first paragraph. Then you're going to go to the body. And just like with the cover letter, the middle one is a little bit harder to write, but it should be a little bit easier because you have now experienced the company. You've spent a half hour or 45 minutes or an hour, or in addition to that, you had a tour of the company. Maybe you've talked to some of the people that are there. You've got a feel for the company. So you want to show through what you write in this middle paragraph that this is where you want to be. So you continue to match the skills and more specific examples of what you have to offer. Maybe in the interview process, they talked about a big project that they're working on. And maybe you did something similar in one of the projects that you had in one of the courses that you took. And so you can make that connection. So you want to continue to make the connections, continue to, somehow they're going to tell you the key things that they're looking for in their hire. And if you have them, you want to show them an example of how you have that capability or how you possess that skill. Sometimes we remember something on the way home that we forgot to say in the interview. You can kind of tuck it into that middle paragraph. Sometimes we forget to say something or a question totally throws us off. And so you can reflect on that missing piece, because if you're like me, you're going to forget everything that you did right. And you're going to focus on, why didn't I say that? So if there are some of those things, find a way to work it into a sentence in that middle paragraph, and you'll feel better about the process. And then the last paragraph is another closing paragraph. And it says, from everything that I've learned, I'm even more eager to work for your company or to join your team. If you need any additional information, don't hesitate to contact me. And thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you soon. leave the double space, type the word sincerely, type your name. Now you want to be sure that up in your subject line, if you're sending an email, it says, thank you. Thank you for, or interview for, and the position and the date, but some kind of a reference up there. Don't leave it blank because employers won't open it if there's nothing there. There's so much spam mail going around, they're not going to open it. Excuse me. There's only one other thing. I'm done talking about the thank you letter, but I said the word project. And so projects are another thing that you can put in your resume. And so if you don't have related experience, you might have related project work. Maybe you did a really cool project. I think about the projects that I've heard specifically in supply chain. And so it might be international transportation or global transportation. So instead of a company, you would put the title of the course, the semester that you took it, and then your bullets would convey the different elements of the project that show you have the ability to talk the talk of the position that you're applying for. So for some majors that relates, some majors are very project heavy, other majors aren't. So that's something that you can think about if you need to fill up the space. If you want to talk with Lynn and I about it, we're happy to talk. But that's my resume, cover letter, and thank you letter.
All right, great. I'm going to jump right into, I'm going to close these right here. We'll need that in a minute. And there was a chat question about where you could find this. And as I'm kind of going through this, you'll see that these are the interviewing resources here, but you're finding everything under student support. And then as it opens up under career services, and under career services, Kathleen mentioned in the beginning of this Zoom meeting, careers by major is what you need for one of the upcoming assignments, but we found things in interviewing and resumes. So you'll find it right there. That was the question. So I'm going to jump right into Handshake. Of course, sign me out. So we're going to sign in again. So this is a student view. My view is very ugly. So this is a student view that you would log into. Handshake, just so you know, it's the only career database that the entire university uses. It's where you will find if an employer contacts myself, Kathleen, Jessica, the three people who work in career for the College of Business, where we will direct employers to post opportunities, whether they be full-time jobs, volunteer, internships. It's also the place where we host all of our fairs, whether it be an internship and job fair, all of that happens here for the entire campus. So quickly going in, just like Indeed or any other database that you use, you're going to log into the jobs area here. You're going to use all of these kind of filters. So I always put like this time of year, because most of you are, I'm assuming, are close to campus. So I use Providence, Rhode Island, because it's a main hub. You're usually looking for internships, and you usually probably only want to work part-time. So those are usually the filters that I use. And then I use the search for accounting, or something like that, and I'll hit enter. And then what you'll see is that various accounting internships will come up. I have to move this bar here because it's in my way. Over here. So then once you see the accounting internships, you can go in, you can use this little flag to save it for later, or you can immediately go in and apply. Usually, though, that's a pretty good starting wage, $20 an hour, kind of that gets you excited about that for an internship. Usually you can go through and find other types of postings for internships. Sometimes I'll just go in and put the keyword maybe business, if I spell it correctly. And then you'll see business development. So maybe some of those, you'll see that remote is one of the keywords that are used sometimes now with COVID, which it wasn't in the past. And you go through and quickly search and apply. Some of our sites ask you to apply directly in Handshake, and then some of the sites ask you to go to their website and apply. So that's the difference between each posting. And again, using the keywords. The main thing that, and I will send you a link that I'll share in all the Business 390 classes that has 2 little videos, quick about putting together your profile, and then a video that goes quickly about kind of the stuff that I just talked about. When you're signing up for events in Handshake, you'd use the events tab, and then you'd have to search to see, find URI, College of Business and stuff like that. So when we're referring you to Handshake, it has 2 functions. I'm just gonna open up Indeed right now. I like the way Indeed works. It works very similar to Handshake. So you'll find in Indeed, a keyword is usually, I just will use accounting again, just because we were using it before. Usually I'll put in something, I'm in Westerly, Rhode Island, so the computer is picking up Westerly, Rhode Island. We can go in and find jobs. And the nice part about this is you'll see the job type. So full-time, part-time. You'll also see if it's remote or not. There's 18 remote accounting positions in Westerly. So of course they're going 25 miles around, which is almost the state of Rhode Island. And then you can even do location. Again, the system kind of functions the same way. How to apply, it could be within Indeed, or it could be at their the company's website. Just be aware of the difference between Handshake and Indeed. Handshake, the employers do not have to pay to post, but it gets vetted by someone in Handshake, meaning a university person. In Indeed, the companies are paying. So you may not see 5 accounting positions posted for the one company, you might only see one thing. Which brings up the point of with Handshake, when you're applying, we've tried to push the employers to, they would like us to send it out individually, but we try to push them to put it into the database because they manage it. We don't. Same with Indeed, they manage it also. Be aware that whether you use both Indeed or Handshake, you might see overlap, but just be aware that both of them function as networks across the United States, really, because Handshake is all based on what colleges and universities are using it, and if the employer wants to post to the whole entire network. So when you see a remote position, most of the time that employer has said, oh, I'm in California, but I want everyone in the network to know. So during COVID, when we were all really in lockdown and kind of weren't seeing anyone, I had students that were doing remote internships out of California. So the remote piece has kind of really been a game changer for experiences. So again, using that keyword remote is really helpful. And a lot of them are still paying. Some of them are not, but a lot of them are still paying. And the same thing will happen with remote in Indeed. So those are the quick 2 sites that I like to use. When it comes to internships, you can find an internship anywhere, friends, family, Indeed, Handshake, you know, your network of people. Ultimately, you know, it's up to you how you find it. The point of an internship, really, as you would know, is to develop your skills for ultimately getting you ready for your full-time job. So just think about, those are kind of the building blocks that you learn. You take your academic learning and you kind of apply it to an experiential learning piece. So that's really important to kind of think about. And really that resume, as you build it and all those experiences, is what's going to make you marketable for that full-time job when you're close to being done with URI. So those are some important things to kind of think about. I always say it's great to have an experience in your career field, obviously, 1 or 2 of them, at least before you leave. it's also great to say, gee, you know, I did this position and I really don't like it. And that's not what I want to do. How do I change my career path a little bit? Maybe you thought that you really loved research in marketing, but you're really more on the creative end of marketing or the social media piece of marketing. Maybe in accounting, you really thought you were tax all the way. You loved your tax professor. You thought it was what you wanted to do, but you tried audit and you're like, oh my God, I like it so much better. Those are really great things to learn in an internship, because it's harder to get out of a full-time job or move in a full-time job, where an internship usually lasts for, maybe 3 months, or, it could be longer if they extend the offer. So those are some things to think about with an internship. What I want to remind you all is that most of you would have free elective credit. Free elective credit can be filled with internship credit, and I'm the person that you would connect with for internship credit. You'd send me an email, and then we can also get you connected into a fully online class and earn academic credit. Just be aware that internship credit, you need to be working at the internship at the exact same time that you're enrolled in the class. So you can't have an internship over the summer and then say, oh, in the fall, I want to do the class. It doesn't work that way. It got to happen at the same time. So if that's something that you're wanting to plan for and you want to do, you'd be reaching out to me. I did notice that, do you need an internship to graduate is in the chat. No, you do not need an internship to graduate. It is not a requirement to have an internship, and it is not a requirement to do internship credit. So I've have some of those students who are double majored. They've never done internship credit, but they've had 3 internships. So it's really up to you of how you want to approach that. Some people do work a full-time job. I've had students who own their own businesses, and they were not able to do an internship over the summer. So they creatively found a way to maybe do a part-time internship during the fall and the spring. And then they used internship credit that way too. So it's kind of up to you how you want to plan it out, but not a requirement. Did I miss anything there? Because I know I want to catch us back up onto time with everything so that we have time for Q&A. So again, remember Handshake, go in, put your profile. Indeed is another great site to use. Keywords, use the filters. And remember, all of the sites will message you back. So once you put your profile in, let's say you search in Indeed and it says, be the first to hear about an accounting internship. Put your email in and it'll message you back. And I always say, who doesn't want an assistant working for free for you?
There's only one thing, Lynn, that I wanted to add in,
Sure.
2 things. First of all, the College of Business sends a newsletter out to all of our students every 2 weeks. We try to highlight some of the most interesting internships and full-time jobs that we receive. I think it says COB newsletter. So if you haven't been getting it, check your spam. If you haven't been getting it and you want me to send you the most recent copy so you can see, exactly who it's coming from, just send me an email and I'll be happy to send it out to you. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture, again, some of those special internships and full-time jobs that are sent into us, and any special or important information that we need the College of Business to know. And then I just want to clarify, I think there's only one major that requires an internship, and that's the IBP program. So if you're in that 5-year program where you're actually doing an internship, usually it's abroad somewhere, that's the only one that I know that there's a mandatory internship in.
Yeah, and I just recently spoke to a student. I forgot who it was, but something was done because of COVID. Usually they do some sort of international internship. So they spend a year abroad because it's a 5-year program. So that's something where you definitely want to talk to your academic advisor about, because I'm sure there's some sort of workaround because of COVID, and if you can or can't travel. I know they're actually doing remote international internships at one point too. So I always say, don't trust what your friends say, trust what your academic advisor says. And the reason being is that if you came into the university as a transfer student, you're following 1 year. If you came in as a freshman, you're following another year, and the two may not be the same. And if you have transfer credit or AP credit, it's way different. And each major has a little something different in it. So I would say, rule of thumb, meet with your academic advisor. That would either be Kathleen Conlin, which is in your Starfish, or Elizabeth, it's not Beth, it's Elizabeth Fair, who's your academic advisor. And, just check in with them once a semester just to make sure, you're taking the right classes, and then kind of fill in those gaps of your, questions like that. So I brought up under our resources, again, under the College of Business website, I brought up the document that was provided by LinkedIn of building a great student profile. I don't know, Kathleen, do you want me to stop sharing, or do you want to show them your LinkedIn?
Sure. Why don't we do that?
Okay, so this document is here. You can go through. There's lots of other great stuff that you can Google that LinkedIn provides. So I'm going to stop sharing. And there we go.
All right. Now just give me a minute to get mine.
Sure.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I can do it, Lynn. Can we go back to that?
Oh, sure. Let me share the screen. Here we go. Share. Perfect. Can you see it again?
Yeah, I can see that. So this document is in, it's again under student support under the career section. When you get to the week, which I think is week 4 or 5, that you have to do your LinkedIn profile, there are specific areas of a LinkedIn account that we want you to pay attention to. So the first one is you want to be sure that you have a professional headshot. And that's actually shows up as number 2. But you want to portray yourself as a professional that's entering the field. So whatever that field looks like, that's the kind of position or the kind of photo that you want to have taken there. Oftentimes I see students upload, I can tell it's their high school graduation picture. Sometimes I see people who have a tux on or a gown on. And so I know it's from some kind of a wedding and you look nice, but it's not business professional. I think we're going to try to have professional headshots taken at Career Day again. So again, this would be an opportunity for you to get your professional picture taken. And that's one of the things that you upload into LinkedIn. The second thing that I always focus on is what actually shows up as number 1 here, which is write an informative headline. So when you go into a LinkedIn profile, usually what you see is a person's picture, their professional headshot, and then right underneath it, there's a line. And that line underneath their name is called the headline. The way I tell students to think about it is, how do you want, if an employer was going in to do a keyword search for you, what keywords would you want under your name? I can assure you that no employer is going to say URI student. It could be, as this says, it could be honors student seeking marketing position. It could be supply chain student seeking summer internship. So find those keywords that describe how you want to be searched by, and that's what you're going to put under your name. The third section down that I like to think about is what's called about. It shows here as number 4. It says develop a professional summary. This is an opportunity for you to describe yourself as a potential either intern or full-time employee. It gives you an opportunity to talk about yourself, your major, your area of focus, what you're kind of looking for. The interesting thing is you can write this in the first person. So you can say I in this section. I am a junior innovation and entrepreneurship major who is very eager to create my own business. I have ideas about this, this, and this. My favorite courses are such and such. This past summer, I did this. So it's almost like your college essay, but now it's appearing on LinkedIn, which I always like to think of as like a professional Facebook. So that summary piece is very important. Obviously, you want to put your education in there. And you also want to list your employment in there. And when you list your employment, you're going to list it similar to how you would list the things that you've got on your resume. So you don't want to just put the name of the company and where it's located in your title. You want to actually add substance underneath that job position. And then there's usually a section for campus involvement. There's the connectedness, number 7. And then this says claim your unique LinkedIn URL. So that's something that you could include on your resume. If you really love the way your LinkedIn profile looks, you can put it on your resume if you choose to. And if you have any special licenses, certifications that you want somebody to know about, there's a section for that as well.
The one thing that I saw that a student did one time is they uploaded their resume right to the LinkedIn, and I would recommend not doing that. I'd recommend taking the time to actually do all these sections. What employers have told me is that they actually, as soon as you apply, they go and they look at your LinkedIn, or they look to find you in social media areas. So when you really are applying for maybe a big internship, you want, first of all, want to make sure all your other social media sites are either locked down, closed, or filtered. But then also you want to make sure that your LinkedIn is good, like Kathleen said, with the picture and all the other areas that need to be filled in. But we have had employers say that they go and look you up.
And I think they go in to look you up. It's not a creepy kind of thing. They go to look you up to see how you're marketing yourself.
Yeah.
But remember that this is a professional profile kind of piece. More and more employers are, there's actually a more costly hiring function that you can purchase through LinkedIn. And so most of the HR companies, offices within companies, use LinkedIn to post positions and to do screening. And so, you know, it's just very commonplace right now. Like when Lynn and I first started looking for jobs, you would look in a newspaper. Well, obviously that's gone. And so now what you're doing is you're looking at platforms like Handshake and Indeed, and also another platform is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other piece that you can use in LinkedIn is, like Kathleen said, looking up jobs, internships, and obviously connecting with alum as a networking piece, as you'll learn it through Business 390. So it's definitely, there are some people that will not connect with you if you don't have a picture. So that's important to know. And, you know, you want, and again, it's not a Facebook picture. It's not anything, you know, that you would be on the more private end. This is the more business end of it. I think that's about all I got there for that. I think we covered everything, because I have on our list of things, sample resumes, cover letters. I have the thank you letter. I'm going to send you all the internship searching Handshake video and searching on Indeed video. Since I won't take up your time now, you can watch them on your own. And then we're going to find out about keeping your uri.edu email. I don't see any other questions in the chat. And just for anyone who joined late, I just want to remind you that Zoom does keep attendance when you punched in, when you punch out, leave. And then on top of that, we take that list and we give it to all the Business 390 instructors. That once you've attended Student Success Day, you'll see that in Brightspace. That's where the instructor will put the point value in for you attending. There's nothing that you have to upload or do. You've attended it, so you're all set. So I just want to remind everyone that. Are there any questions that anyone has? That's a horrible calendar. You don't want to see that. I was like, that's why I'm tired this week. I'm going to stop sharing and then we can kind of, if there's questions, let me know.
Just unmute yourself and call it out if you've got one, or Lynn and I will stay for a few minutes afterwards. And if you have any questions that you want to ask one-on-one.
One of the other things I wanted to remind people is as you're going through the Business 390 class, what I find is that students tend to not read the feedback from their instructors when it comes particularly to resumes. So when your instructor does give you that feedback, make sure you take the time to read it. Because that little fatal flaw, like Kathleen said, you don't have the right degree there or something like that. You don't want to be in the pile of, maybe not. You want to be in the pile of, yes, I want to see you. Because that's a screening out technique for employers. Like if they can't get their degree right, how detailed are they? So that's something to just kind of think about and, get that feedback back from your instructor and read it. Any questions?
I do have a question. Going back to the internship in the question I have my mom works, she has her own accounting firm, and sorry, I'm out of breath. I did a lot of work with her over the tax season. And is there any way that I could get that counted as an internship?
You have to be working at the internship at the same time if you want academic credit, but you can by all means put it on your resume.
Right.
I mean, it's an experience you had. It's experience that if you're an accounting major relates to what you'd be applying to. So it makes total sense. If you wanted to earn internship credit, you need to take the class and work at the same time. So if you wanted internship credit this fall, you'd be enrolled in my 493 class already.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Something to plan for.
Right. And then you mentioned something about the headshot stuff.
Yep.
My son's a psychotic little boy right now. How you said that you could get a headshot that's not like a Facebook picture. Where did you say that we could do that again?
So most likely what we do is on Career Day, which is a required event for the college for Business 390 students, but also College of Business students. We usually offer someone to take a headshot. So you just walk up to him, he'll take a headshot, and then we'll email them out to you. Sometimes we even take it with your phone. So it depends on how we're doing it. It just depends on how they've set it up.
Right.
Usually
that's one thing that I always, whenever it comes to like filling out anything, is I never have a professional photo that's not like a selfie or something like that.
Like this when you're going like that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I need to get one of those, but I don't know how to go about that. So you said Career Day?
Yep. So
Career Day.
Career
And the
Day.
reason we say Career Day is because on that day, the dress code is professional dress or business.
Oh,
And so you're all looking great.
right.
The way we want
So
to
why not just
the
take a
picture.
picture?
We
Right.
just take the picture that day.
That makes sense. All right. Thank you. Those are my 2 questions.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Well, thank you all for your time. It's been great spending some time with you this morning. I hope this was helpful for you. Lynn and I have offices on the 3rd floor of Ballantyne, and anytime you want to make appointments with us, you can do that through Starfish. And, just have a good rest of the weekend and, enjoy the class.
Yeah. I always say the class is what you put into it. Has a lot of information in it that you may not need at this moment, but you'll need later on. So definitely it's the effort that you put in and when you need it. You'll always need a resume. You'll always be applying for something unless you're fortunate enough to, have a trust fund, or someone to hook you up with a job. But all these skills you'll need forever. Resumes and LinkedIn and cover letters really aren't going away. And that network piece is really, really big. So take advantage of what this class offers. Take advantage of your instructors. The majority of our instructors are alum within the field. Take advantage of Career Day. For the rest of the time you're here in the College of Business, eventually you'll be an alum that we ask to come back and talk to students. So people take time out of work to come back and help you with your career and tell you about how they got to where they are. So take advantage of all those opportunities, and the clubs and everything. And a lot of stuff is virtual. So even if you're one of those students who works, 20, 30 hours a week, maybe you can jump on a Zoom meeting on your phone or something like that on a break or something. So that's all I got for today. It's Saturday. Woohoo. No.
Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have one quick question for you guys.
Sure.
So I had planned to be able to come to today's meeting, but something came up and I actually wasn't able to. So that's why I logged on super late just to ask about the one on the 28th. Am I able to sign up for that one too, or?
Sure.
Oh, okay,
You can do as many as you want. We have 2 of them. You're more than welcome to.
okay.
When did you join in? Did you join in at the tail end or did you join
Yeah,
in?
I joined in right about the end when you guys were talking about how LinkedIn and stuff and like
Okay.
resumes. So yeah, that's why I just thought that if I signed up for this one, I wasn't gonna be able to go to the other one. So I got,
No, you're more than welcome to go to the other one and actually it'll be beneficial because we're going to go through the resume, cover letter and those pieces. So that's
Okay.
probably it's all important, but that's what you need for the midterms and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So definitely attend
got
that.
it. And then the one on the 28th is at 4:30, if I'm correct, I think.
4 to 5:30.
4 to 5. Okay,
Yep,
okay,
and the
thank
Zoom
you.
link is right underneath the other one.
Got it. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Hey, take care.
You too.
I'm going to stop
Any other
recording now, Lynn.
Okay. And you have to download it, right?